So the usual suspects strike again as far as race hustling goes, and it's quite sad that they pick a subject in a tragic time like this to ply their trade. So you have Hakeem Jeffries, you have Roland Martin, and you have Nina Turner. On this occasion, they are referring or directing their arguments towards Trump's comment when he was addressing reporters after the DC plane crash, helicopter collision. Now, he referred to some documentation and a report on the Obama and Biden administration when they rolled back and changed the policy on hiring air traffic controllers. And as a result, from what I understand, since that period of time, there's been a shortage of air traffic controllers. And obviously, as a result, these departments have been running under more pressure and having less people to do the job of many. From what I understand, once again, the big change was the drive, and there's documentation if you choose to seek it out that will back some of this up. The drive was to increase the workforce's diversity and make it a more diverse team of people doing air traffic control. Now, this is where it goes a little bit skewed for me. From my perspective, and probably most logically thinking people, if you've got a job that is highly specialized, like air traffic control, that not everybody is kind of cut out for to start with, and not everybody will be successful when it comes to passing those examinations and doing the training. So what the changes led to is hundreds of people who wanted to become air traffic controllers, and they applied for the job, did the training, had the credentials, and they were rejected. And as a result, they've taken the government or the said department to court, as they feel they were dealt with unfairly. The main reason they were rejected was due to their being white or too white, and the emphasis was on finding people from the brown and black, Latin, people with psychological challenges and physical challenges, and maybe different sexual orientations, and making the departments more inclusive as far as air traffic control. To me, that's very strange, because the main important factor in a job like that is you want proficiency, you want the best of the best of the best, because it's such a crucially specific role that most people can't do, and safety is involved, and a lot of people's lives are at stake if it goes wrong. So that's not the place to experiment or play games with hiring. Well, you'll see how the statement has been turned around. Roland Martin's heard what he wanted to hear. Hakeem Jeffries, again, politicizing the comments and reframing them to suit his narrative. And Nina Turner, similar thing. She's hearing dog whistles and anything else, because it all sounds like racism to them if the tune doesn't jingle in the way they want it to be heard. Well, I'm not going to rattle on any further. You check out these clips and see what you think.
Statement that was made by the president. Bodies are still being pulled from the Potomac. Children were killed. Future ice skating Olympians were killed. Future leaders in Wichita, Kansas, and beyond were killed as a result of this tragedy. And we don't need misdirection, and we don't need misinformation coming from the highest office in the land. We need integrity. We need decency. We need leadership. There is not a scintilla of evidence that exists to suggest that women and people of color are to blame for the tragedy that took place.
So that's what Hakeem Jeffries had to say. The hypocrisy is, which is clear to see here, is the fact that you turn the whole thing around and it's clearly racism. The way they can talk about these subjects with black people being the victims on the receiving end of what's being dealt out to them unfairly. Now you spin it around, what they're actually doing is also racism. Although in their minds you can't be racist towards white people, at the core of it, it's just the same thing that really nobody gains anything from. And I tend to come from the school of Morgan Freeman's approach, which is, look, yes, racism existed. It's in the history of the, the United States. It's in the history of the UK's development and culture too. If we're ever going to get past some of these things, stop talking about it. Not only that, if it's such a real thing, then just let the problem correct itself and present itself. You wouldn't have to conflate, reconstruct, use mental gymnastics to reframe people's comments. You won't have to use the dog whistle narrative where, you hear what others cannot hear because they're not from, your culture or whatever. The thing will tell its own story. So they go to such great lengths to magnify and zoom in on any detail resembling or that can be described as being racist. I just think, if the thing is really happening, you'll be able to see it without going out of your way. It'll tell its own story. Anyway, we'll press on and let Roland Martin say his piece.
What has been happening in terms of these crazy, deranged white supremacists and what their agenda is and what their focus is and everything that they have done since January 20th. DEI, 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 DEI. So you got to understand something. Folks, I told you what was going on here. I told you what was at play. What has been happening in terms of these crazy, deranged white supremacists and what their agenda is and what their focus is and everything that they have done since January 20th. DEI, 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 DEI. So you got to understand something. First attacks with Black Lives Matter. Then the next attacks, critical race theory. Then it was woke. Now it's DEI. All of that for them means black. Black first and foremost. So understand something. Today, a news conference took place 14 hours after a Black Hawk helicopter, a military helicopter, collided with an American Airlines regional jet not far from the White House at DCA. I don't call it Reagan. I call it by his airport code. At DCA Airport. And this is what Donald Trump, this is what J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Sean Duffy had to say.
We must have only the highest standards for those who work in our aviation system. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre at best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, they have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. That was not so prior to getting there. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that, and other jobs too, but this was a job that had to be superior intelligence. And we didn't really have that, and we had it. And then when I left office and Biden took over, he changed them back to lower than ever before. I put safety first. Obama, Biden, and the Democrats put policy first. And they put politics at a level that nobody's ever seen, because this was the lowest level. Their policy was horrible, and their politics was even worse. So as you know, last week, long before the crash, I signed an executive order restoring our highest standards for air traffic controllers and other important jobs throughout the country. So it was very interesting. About a week ago, almost upon entering office, I signed something last week that was an executive order, very powerful, on restoring the highest standards of air traffic controllers and others, by the way. Then my administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent, the word talent. They have to be talented, naturally talented geniuses. You can't have regular people doing that job. They won't be able to do it. But we'll restore faith in American air travel. I'll have more to say about that. I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they want them, they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. This was in January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program. Then another article, the Federal Aviation Administration, this was before I got to office, recently, second term. The FAA is actively recruiting workers who suffer severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems, and other mental and physical conditions under a diversity and inclusion hiring initiative spelled out on the agency's website. Can you imagine? These are people that are, I mean, actually, their lives are shortened because of the stress that they have. Brilliant people have to be in those positions, and their lives are actually shortened, very substantially shortened, because of the stress, where you have many, many planes coming into one target, and you need a very special talent and a very special genius to be able to do it. Targeted disabilities are those disabilities that the federal government, as a matter of policy, has identified for special emphasis in recruitment and hiring. The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan. Think of that. The initiative is part of the FAA's diversity and inclusion hiring plan, which says diversity is integral to achieving FAA's mission of ensuring safe and efficient travel. I don't think so. I think it's just the opposite.
So Donald Trump is saying that if you are disabled, you can't sit at a chair and watch a monitor as planes are landing and taking off. That it requires you to be physically imposing and muscular and strong. That's what he's saying. But that wasn't the only stupidity. Here's the grossly unqualified, the most unqualified vice president we've ever had. Here's J.D. Vance.
Something the president said that I think bears reemphasizing, which is that when you don't have the best standards in who you're hiring, it means on the one hand, you're not getting the best people in government, but on the other hand, it puts stresses on the people who are already there. And I think that is a core part of what President Trump is going to bring and has already brought to Washington, D.C. is we want to hire the best people because we want the best people at air traffic control, and we want to make sure we have enough people at air traffic control who are actually competent to do the job. If you go back to just some of the headlines over the past 10 years, you have many hundreds of people suing the government because they would like to be air traffic controllers, but they were turned away because of the color of their skin. That policy ends under Donald Trump's leadership because safety is the first priority of our aviation industry.
Now, this is where it gets really strange, with Nina Turner attempting to rewrite, reframe comments. And, well, again, it's the race hustlers' MO. You see racism everywhere.
One, we don't know if DEI played any role in the hiring and of any of the people involved in the crash or training. Two, we're all old enough to remember when people waited a while after the bodies had already been recovered before they started politicizing three. And number three, and I think this may be the most important part, that the Obama and Biden policies as it related to the FAA and hiring are absolutely insane. Tell me why she's wrong.
Well, the third one, we need to delve more into that. That doesn't mean that there's a correlation between what just happened, the tragedy.
No, it doesn't. But nobody's defending the Obama-Biden policies. Everybody's saying it's too early, we don't know, on and on. But the fact remains that the FAA was hiring people based on things other than, are you the best to keep planes from crashing into each other, period.
Well, the way that you're framing this right now, I agree with Julian on most of what she had to say. And you're right, we are old enough to remember when folks would give condolences first, make sure investigations happen. People just lost their family, their friends, their coworkers, and the president did not do a presidential thing.
We stipulated all that, Nina. You're stonewalling here.
But
tell me why the FAA. No, hold on. You are stonewalling. Hold on. Tell me why the FAA putting out guidance that they want to hire people not best on best and brightest, and changing their standards and lowering their standards is a good thing.
Leland, now hold on. You know me. I never stonewall. First of all, this is not if he wants to investigate what the Biden and Obama administrations did, then do that. But give a moment. My only point is this: give a moment for the family and the friends.
Stipulated.
Now,
answer my question.
If in fact there were some policies within the Biden and the Obama administration that are not up to par, then let's have that discussion. All I'm simply saying is that throwing every DEI at everything is not the way to get at the fixes that are needed. That is what I am saying.
If we can't acknowledge, and these are claims from Adam Laxalt, who sued the FAA, and there's reasons to believe that they're true based on the documents.
Well, we can
2,000 qualified controllers not hired due to DEI. The Obama administration threw out aptitude tests because the tests changed. The way they picked controllers changed, and the standards were lowered so they could give preferences to people based on race and other criteria. Yes, they were.
You know what? Now, we want to talk about preferences based on race. Now, since you want to go there, Leland, we're going to go there. For the inception of this country, preferences have been given.
Oh, come on. No, I'm asking right now.
Leland, now, what I am saying to you is that all of this negative DEI talk makes it seem as though Black people in particular, and then other people of color in general, or people who are otherly able, cannot get jobs based on merit. I don't have a problem with the Trump administration digging through the Biden administration or the Obama administration to find what they see as flaws. What I do have a problem with, Leland, is this blanketed notion that if a Black person or other person of color obtains a job at the highest heights, that somehow it was not based on merit. Leland, that is my problem.
You're conflating something.
No, I'm not.
Hold on. You talk. Now let me make a point. I have not heard from the Trump administration. I've listened to every one of Donald Trump's press conferences since he took office. I listened to all Pete Hegseth's press conferences and Sean Duffy's. I didn't hear any of them say that if somebody who was black, blue, red, green, short, tall, female, male, whatever, got a job, it was because of lowered standards. I didn't hear that. You're changing the goalposts.
They are saying that.
No, they didn't.
They are saying that. It is called a dog whistle. They are saying that. In 2020, it was Black Lives Matter, right? In 2022, it was CRT. In 2024, it was woke. And now in 2025, it is DEI. All of that is
you just can't give it, but you're the one making
Leland,
this about race. They're the ones making it about merit.
They're the one that's making, Leland, they're the ones that are making this about race. Now, I didn't know you want to do this dance with me tonight. You should have told me I would have wore different dance shoes. They are making this about race. Every time I turn around, they're talking about DEI.
So there you have it. When it comes to liberal Democrat politicians, commentators or media, it's not what you hear, it's what you're told you're supposed to hear. Anyhow, you've been listening to myself, Owen Uadia, here at Corner Speak. Please like, comment and subscribe to the channel. Be good, be safe, be creative. We'll catch you again. For now, we out.